And now, Deborah Kobylt Live.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live. Wonderful guests that we're starting with today. Craig Greiwe, you are a longtime marketing and business executive and co-founder of Rise Together. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, and when I say that you are a marketing executive, you are the chief strategy officer for Rogers and Cowan, and I believe that's worldwide. Huge job. You sort of have two jobs going right now, right?
Absolutely. Rogers and Cowan is one of the country's largest entertainment and culture marketing firms, and so I'm overseeing all of the strategy and operations as chief strategy officer there in marketing, and then of course Rise Together, which is my passion, my spare time, and every waking moment outside of that.
Tell me about Rise Together, because this is a big deal, and we're about to be, you've got a real marketing campaign starting in May, right, for Rise Together. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. So Rise Together is a new nonprofit in Los Angeles, and there are a whole slew of nonprofits who are out to do something very different, which is instead of being another door knocking operation or another neighborhood outreach program, all of which are incredibly valuable but duplicative, we're here to change and engage the big picture in Los Angeles. The reality is the vast majority of people in LA have no confidence in their elected officials to prioritize their interests, and they don't believe that their votes, their interests, what they do matters. That's got to change. We have lower voter confidence and participation than Lagos, Nigeria. We have got to change that. So we're focused on reaching and engaging and motivating the vast majority of Angelenos who live in the middle and amplifying their voices. So instead of the extremes shouting at each other for headlines, it's really focusing on the 80-85% of people who are the vast majority of Angelenos who care about this city, who are hopeful and optimistic about this city, but completely distraught at what they see as our cascade into the Pacific Ocean.
Very well said. What are some of the main issues that you're focusing on? And I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say, because it's everywhere. Go ahead.
It's everywhere. But 91% of Angelenos agree that homelessness and affordability are our top two issues, with crime and policing rising fast. We believe that they'll also be just as high on the list by this fall. So you're talking about homelessness, affordability, and crime as the issues that for the first time, we have nearly unanimous agreement in Los Angeles. We didn't get rid of any of the neighborhood regionalism, streets, sidewalks. It's all still a mess. It's just things are so bad that now we've got clear focus in every neighborhood by almost every citizen. The problem is that those citizens don't believe that their leadership cares.
Let's talk a little bit about homelessness, because it's a huge issue for everyone, including those people who are on the streets, them primarily. We failed them too, our elected officials did. What can be done? Because you do have a plan sort of laid out, right? That you tell your people who want to get involved with Rise Together of what we can do to help them and to help help people get their neighborhoods back as well, so that we can enjoy parks and sidewalks, et cetera, while also helping people who need the help, right? Tell us about it.
Absolutely. So the fundamental principle behind Rise Together is that life is not a zero-sum equation. No. By helping the homeless, we don't have to take away from everyone else. It can feel at times like if you're not homeless, all anyone's interested in is talking about or helping the homeless. It can feel like in order to win in one area, you've got to take away from the other. It doesn't have to be that way. We can actually help the homeless affordably and make life better for everyone who already has a home and help them stay in their homes and make a better city. It comes down to the fact that everyone can, like we say, rise together. Those solutions are already in existence. It's just the city's not doing it right. When we passed HHH, there was enough money in HHH to house every single homeless person in Los Angeles at the time. And we didn't do that, right? That's crazy.
Why didn't we do that?
The city has institutionalized corruption and grift and control by 15 oligarchs that we call the city council, who have complete control over their districts. Look at the pallet housing, the new tiny homes that we build. So the city touts them as a success. They cost $8,000 a piece, according to the company that built them. But the city spent $120,000 each. Nobody knows where the other $112,000 went. This is why Judge Carter issued his order yesterday asking for accountability. We have no accountability for where any of that money went. We have affordable, everyday solutions that can get everyone who wants to be off the streets, that we can create a city where people have housing and where the people, everyday people who are not homeless, don't feel like they're left by the wayside. We're blowing billions of money and lighting it on fire. The problem is not the amount of money we have, it's how we spend it, and that's a disaster.
Well, how do you get a hold of that? Because you're right, we need a forensic accounting, essentially, of what's going on in the city. I mean, the numbers that you just gave to me are startling. Where's that money going? Whose pocket is it going into? I'd love to know if in fact it is, right? But that's a little bizarre to me. If you're telling me it costs one thing and then the city is claiming that, it's costing another. So tell me, like, you start with the forensic accounting, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it doesn't cost it costs the city more to build homeless housing than it does new home construction in Bel Air. That's absurd. We're talking $1 million a unit. It's crazy. Now, the question is, you're right, where does the money go? No one actually knows, but it's not that hard to find out. It's not that hard to estimate. When a third of city council has been or is under investigation, we've got a problem. When our own city attorney's office has been raided, we've got a problem. When the chief legal officer for the city is under investigation by the FBI, we have a problem. And these people are running for mayor. These people are running our city. So the answer is, forensic accounting is easy, but no one's asking for it for a reason.
Mm-hmm. But you are, right? And you want to hold them accountable, right? And your group wants to hold them accountable. So, okay, let's talk about that. A forensic accounting. Let's stick with the homeless right now, and then we'll go to some of the other issues. I don't think it's safe for anyone to have people in tents on the street. I also have no answer, right? You claim that it costs a certain amount of money per housing unit. Where do you put all the people who are homeless? How many tens of thousands do we have now in Los Angeles that are homeless, and where do we put them?
Absolutely. So we have nearly 70,000 people who are homeless in Los Angeles, but we have plenty of space to put them. And the issue is not just getting them off the street. We do a very expensive job of getting them off the street. It's preventing people from becoming homeless in the first place. We had 20,000 homeless just 4 years ago, and now we're nearly 70,000. That's not because we didn't get those people off the street. It's because we didn't stop new people from becoming homeless. And that's the answer that we need every single day, is we need easy to understand, easy to use resources for every single Angelino to stay off the streets. It is 10 times easier to keep people off the streets than it is to get them off the streets. But we don't do a good job of that either.
Are you partnering with any groups such as mental health groups? Let's face it, that's a big part of this. Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, job sourcing, perhaps job training. Like, are you looking to partner with all these individuals? Because it's such a multi-processed thing to do, right?
It is a multi-process thing, but keep in mind, we're not an execution organization, right? Okay. Rise Together is focused on bringing public awareness and education around this issue. The fact is that the vast majority of Angelinos are really, really upset about homelessness, but they don't have the information that empowers them to move forward. So the statistics I've shared with you, the vast majority of Angelinos don't know. The vast majority of Angelinos don't know that as of yesterday, a judge issued an executive order and is taking control of the homeless situation in LA, including how the city spends the extra $1 billion it's going to put in. The public needs to know and be engaged and demand accountability. And that's incredibly important. And yes, that needs to come from a coalition. Those solutions need to come from a coalition of nonprofits who all submit to forensic accounting requirements. But it's got to come from the public first. We have done an expert job in this city of conducting our business nominally in public, but really privately, keeping the people out of the way so that those in power can stay in power. That's not the way it should be. It doesn't have to be that way. We need everyone in this city educated about what's happening, because when they're educated about it, they are empowered to do something about it.
You're really right about that. There's so many people who go about their lives and don't really pay attention to the folks that they may have elected into place. And they're really not paying attention to what's going on. They'll just drive by and say, oh, this is a problem. But they don't know what to do. I think people are starting to feel powerless. They realize that our elected officials sort of have let us down, because they have. I've been in these meetings with them, and they just answer, they go around in a circle and they never really answer your question. Very frustrating. How do just regular folks get to the bottom of this? Like, how do we do that?
Absolutely. And it is incredibly frustrating. 75% of people don't even know their city councilman's name, and their city councilman likes it that way, right? That's crazy town, right? Like, we live in a world where these people bounce from public office to public office, where 14 out of 15 city council members have been on a public paycheck for over 2 decades. If you've been responsible for the last 2 decades of Los Angeles, I don't think you should be responsible for more. The public has to embrace the facts, and we have got to be the vehicle for their voice. And that's the goal of Rise Together. We don't have a position for or against a candidate. Our position is to amplify the public's voice, to empower them to take that first step. First, it's giving them the information that they need to make informed decisions. Second, it's holding every single person accountable for being honest. You can't say, let me celebrate these new 42 units of permanent supportive housing in my district when those units cost $1 million each. That's not something to celebrate, right? We need to help people. And then that accountability and that information leads to change and real progress. That's where, that's where our focus is. We have, keep in mind, our voter participation rate is insane. 95% of Angelenos did not vote for Eric Garcetti in his first term as mayor. 95. We have a lower voter participation rate than Lagos, Nigeria. It doesn't work that way. It can't work that way. We've got to bring people informed, and they've got to believe that that change is possible, and we've got to show them that this change is possible because it exists across this city, just not in our government.
Not just across the city, but look at the state. I always point out that train to nowhere. Hundreds of billions of dollars just disappeared. I don't know about you, but that pisses me off. And I'm thinking, that's my tax money. Like, where are you running away with that? It's almost like I got the money and threw it out the window. And I'm not quite sure why there's so much apathy, right? I mean, voters just tend to be apathetic. So I really want them to know, rise together. Don't be apathetic anymore. There's a place where they can go and get involved, right?
Absolutely, 100%. You can go to risetogether.la and join our coalition. We have spoken to hundreds of individuals, people who've been involved in city government for decades and have finally come to their senses, people who've never been involved and want to get involved. We welcome everybody in the common middle ground we all share, which is on accountability, transparency, honesty, and engagement. And you're right. It's not just LA, it's all of California. I don't know when LA ceded control to Northern California over the state, but we have, so LA goes, so should the state go. And the fact is that by being apathetic, we've also done a disservice to our state as well as our city. And we have the power to take back that power from both.
I'll never forget, about a year, probably over a year ago, my local councilman was having an event at someone's home. So of course I showed up, and I asked some of these hard questions, and he circled around it. And then he just looked at me and he said, am I here to do a TV interview? I guess he recognized me, which really pissed me off. And the entire room, I'm not kidding you, the entire room was mute. It's almost like they were drugged. And I thought, man, you people, I mean, you came to this meeting, ask the guy some questions. I actually left the meeting. I was so frustrated.
Well,
that's what happened.
They're stacked with allies. Keep in mind, when a councilman shows up, their friends are filling the room. The people who have the time to show up are not the people that we need to be hearing from. Neighborhood busybodies shouldn't be driving policy in this city. The single working mother of two who's got 2 jobs just to keep her home, she's the person we need to hear from. The marginalized community, the everyday individuals who've written off this city, we need to hear from them. Busybodies control this city, and we've got to change that. We've got to bring, a friend of mine says, we've got to stop asking people to come to the table, and we've got to bring the table to them. And that's what Rise Together is focused on doing. We've got to take this debate out into the public and get them willing and engaged to have a conversation on merits. We have to shift public sentiment. We've got to make the public believe that their choice matters. And that's Rise Together's focus.
You know, I like that because I think even people who want to get involved, they don't even know what to do. People say, oh, call your local councilman or woman. It's like, oh, really? First of all, they don't answer the phone. Second of all, if they do, you know, it's probably a recording. And then they just hang up and they're like, forget it. What's the point? So now we go to Rise Together. I call you, you know, Joe or Jill Citizen, and I'm like, hey, I want to get involved with Rise Together. What would you tell me?
Absolutely. We're doing three things. We're unlike most nonprofits, nobody's getting paid, so it's an all volunteer force. So if you want to volunteer, let's take that volunteering in. If you know other people who should get involved, we want to build the largest private coalition in the city going into the 2022 municipal elections. And then of course it's donating so that we can continue to put all of that money, because again, everybody's a volunteer, putting all of that money into market to reach more people in Los Angeles. The reality is that the 2022 elections in Los Angeles are a make or break moment for the city because we've shifted the election date to November, which means we're going to flood the ballot box with new potential voters who have never voted for city office in their life, which means we have an opportunity to break the cycle. We have an opportunity to break the machine. There will be 800,000 new voters in November 2022, which is twice as many as normally vote. Normally there's 400,000, we'll be almost at 1.2 million. Those voters will determine the future of this city. And they can determine the future of this city with honesty and transparency and by being informed voters on these issues, holding people accountable, and an honest assessment of the failures of anyone who's touched city government for the last 20 years.
What do you do though if it's the same old tired names that end up on the ballot every time? What do you do in that case? You tell us to go out and vote, but it's like, oh God, you again? You know, we also need people to run. Yeah. Are you interested in running for office, by the way?
A lot of people keep encouraging me to run for office. And my response to that is there will be candidates. We've got to create the room for those candidates. Right now, if you ask any sane person if they want to run for office, their response is, no, I don't want people to attack me, troll my families. It's institutionalized corruption. It's bad, it's bad, it's bad. The reality is we have to change that. We can change that. There won't be any candidates if we don't change public opinion first. So that's our focus between now and the rest of the year. And we know of a lot of people who are considering running for office. And I am confident that those names will emerge in the fall. You will not see the same old names on the ballot as your only choice come November of 2022. You will see a lot of new names, and those names will be incredible names to choose from.
I'll be curious who you'll be supporting. Because I would, no, I'm serious, because I would love to work with you on this. We need this, and not enough people are willing to just stand up and do the work. Because like I said, it is difficult. There are the same old names on the ballot. I mean, eventually, you know, we've got to get some new names out there. I don't know how to do that though.
Well, and I think it's simple because the reality is all those same old names on the ballot have been playing musical chairs for their own ambition in public office for the last 20 years. There's a difference between public service, which I appreciate, and public parasites, which is what Los Angeles has. And the answer on that is that we have got to get people who want to be just focused on this city. Right now, all of the people running for mayor, we know who they all are. They just want to be governor or senator. Some of them even run for those offices. We need people who just want to focus on Los Angeles, and we need to create a lane and an opportunity where the public is willing to embrace that change. But if the public isn't willing to look for change, then there is no room for a new voice. And so that's what Rise Together is about, is helping the public get ready and look towards its future in an honest way, because that's going to create the room for those candidates, and it's going to create an opportunity for a real honest conversation on the merits between those new voices and those public parasites who are the career voices that we always see.
People also need to be loud, you know, and by loud, I'm not talking about disruptive, but loud. And perhaps organize, go to the local council person's office and say, you know, not just two people, but a group of people, and say, what are you doing? This is what my district looks like now. I can't even safely go to a park. What is your plan? Right? What? Go ahead.
far left activists shouldn't be the only ones getting loud, right? And that's really what Rise Together is about, is amplifying that voice, creating those opportunities, not just through marketing and accountability and public accountability, but through organizing moments and engagements where we can make sure that the vast majority of people who share common ground in the middle have their voices heard.
So what are you going to be doing? I know that you have a whole campaign that you're launching, billboards throughout Los Angeles, at least 60. I think you had more than that, but I'm not sure what happened there. But tell me what's going to be on the billboards as people are driving and they see that. You know, I want to know how we can attract more people.
Absolutely. Starting in May, you'll see 60 billboards throughout Los Angeles, along with digital, social, and direct mail and email. And our sole goal is to reach and engage the population, to shift public opinion, to reach people who aren't even thinking about this right now. And there are hundreds of thousands of them, where we are reaching them in their anger and frustration and helping to guide them out of that anger and frustration into action. That's our goal. It's a consumer marketing campaign. And yes, we were going to have more billboards, but the institutionalized corruption of a billboard company got in our way. But that's not going to stop us. We have the opportunity to reach hundreds of thousands of people throughout this city and then shift their opinion, reach them where they are, shift their opinion, and then take those new opinions and turn it into action that is focused on accountability. That's our goal for the next 6 months. And when we have that army of the public, and that's truly what it is, when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who now are looking with an eye towards accountability and change, then it is motivating that army for the rest of the year, from November 21 all the way through November 22, to show up, be heard, to create opportunities, to have their voices heard. So it's not just the extremes shouting at each other. So first, it's meeting the public, getting them engaged, getting them to sign up and be involved. And then it's activating that involvement throughout the next year so that we see that the 2022 elections are a make or break moment where we save this city instead of recycle it.
Yeah. What else, will you be doing with Rise Together? I guess you're going to have different subsets and different groups, right? Do you have, folks in different areas of town that are going to be organizing, or hope that they'll be organizing? Tell me.
Absolutely. So we'll have groups in every district across the county, across the city, focused on our municipal elections. And that's really our focus. It's not just in the 8 council districts that are up for election, but it's all across the city. We've got mayor, city attorney, all of those citywide offices that are up. So in each of those areas, we'll have different groups. We've got a veterans group. There are hundreds of thousands of veterans in Los Angeles who have been shafted, who are joining our movement so that we restore dignity to their existence in Los Angeles. Small business groups, everyone from lawyers and professionals to everyday small businesses, hairdressers, restaurants, people that were left on the sidelines, parents who found that wineries and card rooms were open before schools are key aspects, right? People who have been marginalized, because the answer is, when the machine of this city has held power for so long, everyone is on the outside, from everyday parents to veterans to businessmen and women. And our goal is to give each of them a voice across the city with events, opportunities to have their voice heard, where we're creating the opportunities to share their voice with their councilman when they don't have the time or the energy, where we can drive that change forward. It's not just about activists showing up with 12 protesters to seize a headline. It's about hundreds of thousands of real people having their voices heard, and us having the media dollars to amplify those voices. That's what this comes down to. It comes down to media dollars in market to amplify those voices. And that's what we're raising money to do.
Where are you from? Because I know you weren't born in LA, but when you came to LA, it was a whole lot better than it is now, right? Talk to me about you.
I am a nearly native Angelino, as I like to say. I've been here over 20 years, but I grew up in rural Indiana. So my Midwestern sense of ethics and responsibility and do-gooderness has really never left me. And when I came here, I could feel the hope in this city. The Grove had just opened. Yeah. There was incredible optimism about the city, largely as a result of Reardon's New Los Angeles campaign reinvigorating people's hope for the city. And since then, people have always continued to love Los Angeles, which is great, but they haven't believed in Los Angeles's leadership, and that's led us where we are. So I am driven, I grew up so poor that I had to tape the soles of my shoes to my feet, right? Like, I was an orphan. I know what it's like to struggle, and I know what it's like to be able to build through hard work, by doing the work, to build a life that I love in a city that I love. The answer is everyone in this city is doing the work except for our leadership. And that's where the change comes from. It's the same type of hard work that scraped me up from the bottom of a barrel, being an orphan, nearly homeless, so poor that I couldn't afford new shoes, to where I am today. It's the same hard work that's going to drive this city forward. It's not just speeches. Like when I listen to the speeches, it's not just speeches and pledges. It's plans. It's real work.
I didn't realize you were an orphan. We spoke earlier and I didn't realize that. I had no idea.
I am lucky to have the most incredible parents who are from Los Angeles who adopted me, but it's a whole different story that I wrote a memoir about that'll come out later this year. But for sure, it's, it codifies this sense of what people need in life and what this city can give them and be for them. We're not doing. And if we could, we'd have such a better city. We all can rise together. This isn't just hopeless, pie in the sky optimism. No. I am a calculating businessman who says, here's where we need to go and here's what we need to do to get there. This is where we need to go.
I love what you just said. You're a calculating businessman, but you're a calculating businessman with a heart, Craig. I mean, which is rare, but that's a great thing because you need a little heart and you need a lot of business sense to be able to cut through a lot of the bullshit that's going on out here, right?
100%. I'm not here to build another mall, unlike other businessmen considering running for mayor. I am not here to do anything other than devote my time and energy to making sure that we can save Los Angeles. And I don't mean me, because it's not just me.
It's all
of the people who are just like me. It's all of us, you, me, all of these people who feel left out. It is representing that voice. It is amplifying that voice in market. And yeah, I am a businessman, which means I know how to get things done and I'm held accountable for doing it. And that means I know what we need to do to save this city. And I'm hopeful that hundreds of thousands of people will come along that journey with Rise Together. And together we can return the power of this city where it belongs, to the people who live here instead of the oligarchs in City Hall.
Fantastic. Tell people how they can get in touch with you. And also, I hope you're going on a major media blitz. I could see you on all the local stations, Spectrum, radio in particular, because those people get so involved and people get so, personally invested. I just hope you're going all out because you can do this. We can all do this. We really can, because no, our elected officials have not been serving us well. I'm sorry to say. I've been in those meetings face to face and I never get an answer. Right?
Say what you will. You will always get an answer from me, even if it's one you don't like. I have a strict policy of always telling the truth, even when it's not in my favor. That's the philosophy we need to engage in as a city. And I will go on any show, any radio show, any blog, any interview to talk about saving this city, because at least that means one person is doing it, although it's hundreds and thousands of us. So I encourage everyone to go to risetogether.la. And you can follow us on social outlets at Rise Together LA, or follow me on social outlets at The World According to Craig, The World at Craig, where you'll see lots of my rants on what we can do to save the city, on the things that we need to do. And we welcome the involvement from everybody. You can go to the website, you can sign up, you can donate, and you will get a response from a real human being, probably me or one of my co-founders, because this is an all volunteer effort. And I am thrilled to have the opportunity to reach so many people.
Yeah, well, you need one guy to start it. So thank you very, very much, Craig. I appreciate you being here. Craig Greiwe, co-founder of Rise Together, also a very successful marketing and business executive with Rogers and Cowan. I appreciate it. Anything else you want to add? You gave out your social handles and all that stuff. We've got the campaign starting the beginning of May, right? The billboard campaign. So as you're driving around, people just look up, you'll see it, right?
Absolutely. There'll be a text to get involved option. There's already there's always a web option already. I'm thrilled. I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And it is my hope that we can amplify the voices of the middle ground instead of the extremes. And that means there's a whole lot of a better future ahead of us.
Get involved, people. Hashtag Rise Together. And we will be following up on this too, because I really want to help your efforts and everybody else. So thanks very much for joining us. I appreciate it. And thanks all of you for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live. You will find our show pretty much everywhere: Facebook, YouTube, IGTV, and then on all audio platforms. Wherever you get your podcasts, you'll find us. And please get involved. It's really important for all of us. I know I've seen a big change in LA, and it's about time that we all stand up and rise up and do something together. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you, Craig. And please look up Rise Together. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.